Dave, it's me, Dave. I know you want to shimmy in the sun with all your friends, but right now, seriously, don't. Hang out from home, where pants are optional. You can do it for America.
You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Los cuatro rudos, ídolos de la afición, la arena estaba de bote en bote, la gente loca de la emoción. Vienen y luchaban los cuatro rudos, ídolos de la afición. El santo es cavernario, luchemos y el mundo. El santo es cavernario, luchemos y el mundo.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the English edition of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, which is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. Every week, our team will be bringing to you all of the latest news happening in the world of Lucha Libre. We will be providing recaps of Lucha Libre happenings all over the world, happening over the past week, including news from Lucha Libre AAA, CMLL, and top Mexico-based independent wrestling promotions, along with luchador-related news from WWE, AEW, MLW, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, and beyond. This podcast is available on luchacentral.com and all major podcasting platforms. My name is Miranda Morales. I am one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast team, but I don't do this alone. I have two other experts here to take you on the latest that's happening in Lucha Libre. First, I'm going to bring in Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how are you this week?
I'm doing great. How are you, Miranda?
I am doing fantastic. I am so glad that you are with us. You are out in Kansas where there's some possibility of some storms happening out there.
Yeah, they warned us yesterday to be ready for tornadoes, and we're in a severe thunderstorm watch, but no weather yet. But they, ever-present threat this time of year. Yes.
Well, fingers crossed there isn't a tornado that happens during the middle of this show for you. I'm going to knock on some wood there.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. That would be something. But you know what? Keep us updated just in case.
I will.
All right. If we don't hear from you, the tornado may have gotten to you.
Yes, that could be. I hope not, but it's possible.
Oh, hopefully not. Hopefully not. Our other co-host, the third member of our hosting team, Brendan Barr. Brendan, how are you doing this week?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm up here in Seattle, the land of the perpetual lockdown, so we're staying safe, but I'm tired of staring at the same four faces.
Well, we are all still in lockdown. I live in Arizona. Our lockdown will be lifted fairly soon. So, but, then we start seeing each other's faces again and also, wondering, hopefully, is this person going to get me sick? Who knows? Hopefully not, but still some weird times in quarantine land. So I'm glad that both of you were able to make it to this week's show. This is the second week of the podcast, so thank you all for joining us. We're really excited to have you, and we're going to be jumping into this week with an interview that we have lined up. Let's get... Hold on, some technical difficulties. There you go. So we have a great interview lined up for this week's show. This is an individual who we asked to come on due to his experience in training. And not only, just training in Lucha Libre, training some of the best out there. Also a professional wrestler in his own right, very well known in the professional wrestling community. We're just very excited to have him on this week's show. Let's see. Vinnie Massaro. Vinnie, are you with us?
Hello, I'm here.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. Vinnie, you've been seen on Lucha Underground, and also, rumor has it, best friends with Ultimo Panda. Is that something that you can confirm exclusively here on the Lucha Central Weekly podcast?
Well, I don't know about best friends. I'm more of his handler.
Okay.
So I have to carry his back. Like, you know how you hear those stories of like Andre the Giant and Tim White and like the Great Khali and some of the refs like have to make sure he gets from one place to another. That's me with the Ultimo Panda, because he's a superstar. He's from Japanda.
Yeah.
He's from Japanda. He's not coming from the corner. He's not a local guy. So he has to make his way. I have to make sure he has his travel. He has his bamboo. He has all of his songs and his, I gotta make him a little, playlist. Like a little, for every show he demands a certain little mixtape. So I have to make that for him every time. He's honestly, if I can be honest with you, he's kind of a dick, but he pays a lot of bills.
Hey, no one said the wrestling business was going to be easy. I'm sure you teach that a lot to your students.
Yeah.
But you know what? To be that handler for Ultimo Panda, to someone that's fairly beloved, making sure he gets there. Having to put up with what
Don't
he puts you through.
Don't meet your heroes or pandas. It's not. It's just not gonna be. You're gonna hate it. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's a long story, but I appreciate you having me on. I really do appreciate you having me on your podcast.
No problem. You are with Pro Wrestling Revolution Training Academy. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to be part of the academy?
Yes. Well, I mean, the academy is a great place for it's in San Jose, California. So if anyone's ever, anyone ever wants to come and train in San Jose, California, you're more than welcome to come. It's a great place to go and train, not because of me. Obviously, I would love to say, come to train because it's, you're going to train with me. I'm just one of the one of the instructors there. Like, you go to a lot of different places and you get one instructor, and that's pretty much, you can tell because that whoever comes out of that place pretty much trains like that person. The good thing about Pro Wrestling Revolution is like I'm one of the trainers, so I have a little bit more of a strong style, or just kind of I have my own style of more suplexes, more strikes. Then we have other people in there that can train, like Robert Thompson, like Gabe Ramirez does some of the training. But then the good thing about Gabe Ramirez, who is the owner of Pro Wrestling Revolution, he will come in and what he'll do is he'll bring special trainers. Like we've had Super Crazy before, we've had Sky Day, we've had Lady Apache, which is by far one of my favorite ones. Lady Apache is, just an amazing trainer. And we all learn different lucha styles from, all these different, teachers. So it's not just one person, it's not just me. So, in case, hey, somebody wants to learn this style and Lucha Libre, obviously, when you're with Sky Day, you're going to do the more intricate submissions. Lady Apache, same thing. She's, everyone's like, oh, well, I don't know, I can't believe, you're going to be sitting there and train from a woman. Well, I guarantee you she's the baddest, one of the best trainers I've ever been in the ring with. She can tie you up into so many different ways, and they call it the llaves, the keys, and it's an awesome experience. So, but that's a good thing about Revolution. You never, and then sometimes you just have random people come in and just want to train there, and it's just a great place. There's lots of people there. There's big guys, small guys. So if you want to be a lucha and base, you can learn everything, any kind of thing you want to learn about it.
That's amazing, and especially, someone of the caliber of Lady Apache. I mean, she's a tactician. To be able to learn from her,
for sure.
And go. Hello.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Just to reiterate what you were saying. Yeah, I mean, to learn from her and a lot of the special trainers that come in. I'm sure as a trainer too, you're always constantly learning to be able to show your students and encouraging them that the learning doesn't stop.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the one good thing about being, quote unquote, a trainer at Revolution. I say quote unquote a trainer at Revolution because I don't consider myself a trainer there. I consider myself more of a student. Just because when Lady Apache shows up or Skyday shows up or Super Crazy, I'm the student. I'm the one that's going to learn from them. So I appreciate all their what they, because they will take each person and it's like, hey, you know what, we're not, it's not like they all go down the list like, okay, everyone's got to do, Ajalitas or everyone's got to do Ranas. Okay, well, Vinny, obviously I'm not going to, I don't know if you've noticed who, for those who have never seen me, I'm not a high flyer. I'm more of a ground-based guy. So, of course, they're going to teach me those styles.
Well, you mentioned that, you are a student. Can you explain a little bit about your background in pro wrestling and how that may impact how you work with newer students?
So when I first started, I started at the All Pro Wrestling Gym. Basically, if anyone's ever seen Beyond the Mat, and seen that glamorous gym with the cats, that was the person with the cats. That was my trainer. His name was Michael Modest. So funny story about that upstairs bedroom where you guys saw him with his cats. That was actually my room for about 2-3 years. So that was my that's where I first started training, was at All Pro Wrestling at the All Pro Wrestling Warehouse gym. And my head trainer was Michael Modest. But that's when I first started wrestling. And I was just one style. It was just one style. It was all, my favorite wrestler was Masawa, so I was just kind of wrestling just like Masawa. No questions asked. Just always being just that strong style, suplex and strikes. And then pretty much what happened is Gabe Ramirez started doing Lucha Libre, and I will admit it. I hated Lucha Libre when I first saw it. I hated it. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I'm like, this is ridiculous. They're just dancing around. They're not doing anything. They're taking power bombs and getting right back up. I'm like, I hated it. And then, Gabe Ramirez, he showed me, like, you know what? There's good Lucha Libre and there's bad Lucha Libre. Let me show you this. And he started showing me, like, old school stuff, and I loved it. I love, like, watching, like, Negro Navarro and Solar just sitting there and just grappling. And then once I got more, once I realized that, hey, Lucha Libre is actually more of a shoot than any other type of wrestling. It's more grappling, it's more hole to hole, it's more, lock and key, like how they say, like the Llaves. It's more, it's way more physical and way more like grappling than any other style that you have there. The problem is that, just like anything, it's indie wrestling, indie Lucha Libre. They think they can do it, but it's just a couple of white guys with a bunch of masks, but they're not really trained properly. And a lot of those people give Lucha Libre a bad name, but I fell in love with it. So when Gabe Ramirez, he started doing Lucha Libre with Pro Wrestling Revolution, I fell in love with that style. So I started going to his gym, I started training. Blue Demon Jr. was there a lot, and I would just and I would learn, and I would go to shows, just wrestle as Vinnie Massaro and just wrestle with a lot of the Lucha legends. And I just remember watching being in awe of all those things, like watching Silver King and L.A. Park and, all those wrestlers, and just loving everything about it. And then I just started going to his school and learning. And the more I learned, the more I realized, Lucha Libre is a lot more than just, jumping and doing topes and, all kinds of crazy stuff,
Yeah, that I do know. That's a question I was going to have for you. You've already started to touch on it. The differences between Lucha Libre and the more traditional American style. If you want to talk a little more about that, also how you incorporated that, since you were already working, by your own admission, a little more strong style, like how you incorporated the two together.
Yeah, so what I did, obviously, like I said, I'm a big fat dude. So I'm not going to be doing springboards and jumping up and down and doing, catching people in rounders. But what I can do in Lucha Libre that people like Skyday and Lady Apache taught me is that I can grab a hold of something and wrap them up in a, like octopus and doing just wrapping people up. I love that part of Lucha Libre. I love grabbing an elbow and maneuvering the body of another individual just by moving the wrist or moving the shoulder or moving anything. I love that part of Lucha Libre. And, and the more I watched it, I started falling in love with people like Negro Navarro, like Solar, like Skyday, like Lady Apache, like Grand Apache, and just, more of that style. Obviously there's, there's always cool moves and cool stuff like cool arm drags, but I fell in love with more of that style.
I'm 100% with you. I'm a huge fan of watching the keys and all the locks and seeing Negro Navarro comes up here a couple times a year to teach at our Lucha Libre school, and that is I have gone out of my way to be at every show and every seminar when he's up here because of such a result of that. So that's awesome.
Now don't get me wrong. Like, when I see Phoenix and and Pentagon and Ray Orris do those crazy things, I'm like, it's amazing. I'm in awe of it. But the thing that I love about Lucha Libre is that it doesn't just start like that. They go into it, they do locks, and it's 2 out of 3. That's why I like the older 2 out of 3 falls, because they do tell a story. And then the more you look at it, the more you understand and appreciate the art of Lucha Libre. You understand that it's not just a guy chopping each other for 5 minutes and then doing dives and then going home with whatever crazy power bomb from the top rope.
How did your training throughout the years lead to you becoming a trainer?
Pretty much it's just, what it was is that I think I loved just, I didn't mind getting in the ring and just training with other people. So other wrestlers will come to me and go, hey, do you want to come on the weekends and just kind of walk around? And, I had a reputation when I first starting out of coming up with crazy moves. So guys were like, hey, can you come on the weekends and just kind of help me come up with a move or help me perfect this one move that I thought of. So, I guess just, in pro wrestling, eventually just, if you can, not everybody can, not the best wrestlers. If you're a good wrestler, doesn't mean like, hey, you're going to be a good trainer. Sometimes people, if you're a good wrestler and you can explain yourself to another individual, that means you're a good trainer. So I think that's the thing, is that I can actually explain the moves or psychology or a storyline of a match to another person and make it sense. Like, I'm not just gonna, because I think what I learned is I'm not gonna just go out and go, hey, here's the book, here's what I need to teach you, and go out there and do it. Like, each individual is different, so I understand, like, hey, what I teach you is going to be different to what I teach another person.
That's incredible. And you helped train Cain Velasquez, right?
Right. Yeah, that was amazing. I really love that part. I got with Kevin Kleinrock and Conan when he was first starting out with that AAA 6-man. Kevin, because he lives in San Jose, he's pretty close to us. So Kevin reached out to Conan and said, hey, I know a guy that can help him. And it was really funny because when Conan, I've known Conan for a while, and Conan kind of, Conan helped me get my Lucha Underground job pretty much. So Conan's like, hey, listen, I need your help. Can you help me out? I was like, no problem. I would love to. It's just, the good thing about Cain is that, what I can tell you about instead of other people was that Cain loved wrestling. Cain loved Lucha Libre. So he really enjoyed his time training. Like, he wanted to learn this move and, this crazy, it's like, hey, I saw it. He would show me, like a true luchador, he has WhatsApp. So he would message me on WhatsApp and send me a video of a move that he saw on like some old school Hill del Santo or, something that he saw. He's like, oh, can we learn that? It's like, sure, no problem. So, and then me as a trainer, I was like, okay, hey, we're going to do this move, just like you showed me, just like, the video you showed me. But at the end, instead of a drag or instead of like a Rana, you're going to do like a single leg, pick up and slam the guy. Or you're going to do like a Fujiwara armbar. So what I would do, I would have him do Lucha Libre, but then it would always end up into some kind of like MMA or shoot style move.
That's incredible, the blending. And do you think your strong style background helped you kind of train him that way, since you already kind of had a more strike offense based moveset?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the other thing that helped me out a lot was that I actually trained a few times for a few years. When I was younger, I trained in MMA just for fun, just because I wasn't going to fight or anything, but I trained at a gym down here in Oakdale, California, where I live, near where I live, and I started training in jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. So I would explain to him, hey, remember, how this, and this? Well, we're going to do this. So he knew, when I would tell him things like, 2-on-1, he would understand, and just I wasn't like, hey, this is Lucha Libre, this is how we do it, and he's like, well, what does that mean? I would kind of take examples from jiu-jitsu or from MMA, and he would understand, And the other cool thing is that I would come up with moves that would be like, just like the Daniel Cormier driver that he ended up using. It's like I have a finisher where it's like a single leg take that I saw Daniel Cormier do when he fought in an MMA fight, and then I showed Cain, and he's like, oh, I love it. And he started, and that was his, that was the finishing move that he used on Tejana. So that was kind of cool.
That's awesome. Were there any specific luchadors or any specific moves or finishes that he wanted to learn, like specific things that he came into the training wanting to know?
Honestly, he was so happy, and so he has such a good, like, a love for Lucha Libre that he kind of wanted to learn the basic stuff. I'm so glad he didn't want to come in and be like, hey, can I learn how to do a destroyer? I was like, no, you're not gonna. I'm not gonna teach you that.
That's a good teacher.
So, yeah, it's so funny because I had two rules. I was like, the first day I was like, listen. I know I know you're Cain Velasquez. You're super famous, but I have two rules: no destroyers and no slapping the leg. And he still to this day he still has that. So I'm really happy. And he always makes fun of me. He's like, hey, I didn't slap the leg. I'm like, I appreciate you a lot. But no, he wants to learn a lot of I know he liked a lot of Mil Mascaras and Hill del Santo. He wanted to learn a lot of that kind of stuff. A lot of the older stuff. Cause I think he watched a lot of Lucha Libre with his dad, and so I think he's more of an old school guy. He knew a couple of the new people, but not. He didn't know. It was mainly a lot of the old stuff. So I would show him a lot of the arm drags and locks. And he, obviously he loved because, that was, that's the kind of stuff that he knows how to do. But of course, Psycho Clown, the first day he's in Mexico, Psycho Clown teaches him backflips and all this other crap. I'm like, all right.
That's awesome. So what was it like to be on Lucha Underground?
Oh, anytime anybody always asks me about Lucha Underground, it's always the same. It was the greatest. Basically everything you've ever heard about pro wrestling in backstage and how everyone's cutthroat is complete opposite. Everyone loved everyone, and I mean this.
So
everybody wanted everybody to succeed. Even me, like even just little me. I'm nowhere in the leagues of any of those guys, and they all wanted me to succeed, and they all wanted me to have good matches, and they all wanted me to shine, and they were all happy for me for even like the few matches that I had, they're all really happy for me. So, yeah, I tell you one thing, I definitely got Lucha Underground spoiled me. That's for damn sure. They because I've never been anywhere else anywhere near like that. Where everyone's super nice and everyone wants you to succeed, and you're just taken care of 100% from the day from as soon as you leave your house to you get back to your house, you are taken care of 100%.
That's awesome.
And Lucha Underground helped really bring Lucha Libre to a more American audience. And really, I mean, lots of fans miss it, and it really left a profound legacy in such a short amount of time. What do you hope, fans get out of, rewatching Lucha Underground, or kind of just a legacy that it's left?
Honestly, I really hope they noticed that, they weren't afraid to take chances. I know now everyone's like, oh, well, what do you mean take chances? There's Andrade and there's, Pentagons all over and Phoenix all over TV. Yeah, but 5 years ago, if you didn't know how to speak English, you were never, ever going to be on national TV in America. It's just the way it was. You know what I mean? Like they would have, hey, you're a good wrestler, but can you quickly learn how to speak English because we're not going to have you on TV unless, But now, because I personally think because of Lucha Underground, because of people like Pentagon, people like Phoenix, that people like Drago, Aerostar, all these Mil Muertes, all these major stars that that didn't go on the camera and speak English, but they were major stars. Like Pentagon Jr., major star in the United States. He never cut a promo, like in broken English. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He was, and it was subtitles, and that was his gimmick. It was, they didn't take all this, before in like, if you're a luchador and you got to WWE or anywhere else, you had to get, you had to basically either you were stuck with all the other luchadors, like WCW, just opening match of the luchadors, or hey, Rey Mysterio, you're getting really good, you're getting good traction, you're getting popular. Take off your mask and start and speak English. You know what I mean? It's like nowadays you go to Andrade goes out there, that's how he is. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys don't have to lose their mask. They don't have to change their whole persona. So I think that's the part that I really enjoy. And the other thing is that I think like I said, they weren't like Lucha Underground took a lot of chances with storytelling and, which obviously, as you look at it right now in pro wrestling, because of these empty arenas, there's a lot of storytelling. There's a lot of empty arena matches, and, everyone wants to be the first to be like, oh, well, we invented this, we invented that. Who knows who invented the empty arena match, but I think, Lucha Underground put it on national TV, and they had a match where it was Melissa Santos versus Katrina, in outside of a ring, you know what I mean? And it was a cinematic match, you know what I mean? I don't remember, I know everyone wants to talk about Matt Hardy and all this, but I think Lucha Underground was one of the first ones to do it and do it very well.
That's awesome.
I feel like the publicity around the Matt Hardy matches in particular, everybody compares it to what they saw in Lucha Underground. So I definitely think that that is something that your group led the way on, and thank you for putting a lot of that effort and creativity into that, even though I know you're going to say that you probably only had a tiny part to do with it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I would love to say that, like, oh, I was, I will... even the littlest part, even just me, like I know in pro wrestling, everyone's like, oh, well, if you're not a WWE champion or if you're not in the main event, you're nothing. I go, to me, I take pride to know that I was one of, I was the second person or third person to get their arm broken by Pentagon. And you know what? It's like, well, what the heck? Why would you proud of that? I said, well, I helped make that character what it is. You know what it I mean? You know, Pentagon, you know, became that person because he broke all those, you know, because he broke my arm and broke other people's arms. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, honestly, it's a lot has to do with the writers. Is because, you know, a lot of, you know, right now it's a lot of WWE writers or any kind of writers are like, hey, let's put this guy, he's hot, let's put him in the #1 main event match and, you know, and whatever. Let's just put him in the belt right away. Well, Lucha Underground, they're like, hey, we have this really hot guy. Let's have him, you know, let's have him beat a no-name person and break their arm in a minute. And then what happens? Well, okay, he's getting a lot of press. What do we do? Next week, do the same thing. And they built it. Like, I mean, look what they did with Matanza. They didn't use him for like a whole season until finally the second season when he first comes out. That's why it was such a huge pop. It's because of it's storytelling. You know what I mean? So I mean, yes, I would love to say
absolutely.
I'm just proud of my own little moment. You know what I mean? It's like if you look at The Sopranos, not everybody can be Tony Soprano. You gotta have everyone has little, you know, characters, and like everyone like, oh, I love The Sopranos, you know, TV show. Well, okay, you love Tony Soprano, you love all these little, you know, you love all the characters that are involved, even the ones that there's 1 or 2 episodes, you love those people.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, very, very good point about it. I mean, wrestling is, especially in the context of like a Lucha Underground, was also a show that had storylines that was driven by what was happening every week. So everyone really did have a role to play. And in that particular environment, every character, you know, had something to contribute to the overall show in a lot of different capacities. So you make a really outstanding point about that.
Oh, thank you very much. put that on a sound wave. I want to hear that more than once.
Yeah, don't worry. We will make sure you get a recording of this show. Your experience in Lucha Underground, training Cain Velasquez, and setting the record straight that Ultimo Panda can be kind of a jerk, which, you know, it's...
He's a dick.
Wow. You heard it here first, everyone. Exclusive. Ultimo Panda is kind of a dick.
Kind of.
Could you run that back, Miranda? I didn't catch all that.
I was going to ask, where can people find Vinnie on social media?
Oh, I am on Twitter as Snoring Elbow, and then I'm on Instagram as Vinnie Massaro, but obviously Twitter is better because I can just, you know, post funny stuff. Instagram, I'm not an Instagram model, so I can't post a bunch of pictures of myself. So I'm way more busy on Twitter because I'm hilarious. Ask your friends.
It's true. I already follow you on Twitter, and you are hilarious. You are some of the best parts of my morning.
Bless you. I think what happens when you reach a certain stage in your life, you just don't give a shit no more. So you're just like, you know what? I'm gonna tweet this out and not care if I don't get a job somewhere else. And that's pretty much where I'm at.
Hey, you know what? It's the only way to live life right now. You know, you never know. So you might as well spend it by saying what you think.
And the best part, I will never ever tweet something and say that it was my gimmick or because I'm a heel. And if you don't like it, it's because of you, like other wrestlers do, which is ridiculous, by the way.
Well, we would love to have you back on for a lot of other points of conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to follow Vinnie Massaro on social media. Thank you so much for your time, Vinnie.
Thank you. And whatever you do not follow at Ultimo_Panda because he's a dick.
Oh, there you have it. All right, Vinny, take care. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vinny.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, man. The news that we get from our exclusive interviews on the
I would
Lucha
not have
Central
guessed
Weekly
that.
podcast. Right? No. I would have not guessed. Ultimo Panda, kind of a dick, but you know what? We heard it from his handler, the person that had to take care of him. So, I'm kind of inclined to believe him. Well, before we get into more news, let's kick it to Denise Salcedo with this week's Lucha Central.
Hey everyone, Denise Salcedo coming to you from Lucha Central. This is an exciting week as we launch the Lucha Central Podcast Network, your brand new source for the best podcasts covering Lucha Libre in both English and Spanish. And with so many formats, we've got something for everyone. Launching this week are our flagship shows, Lucha Central Weekly. We've got an edition in English and one in Spanish. And the Lucha Central Weekly podcast will drop every Friday morning, taking a look back in the week that was and setting you up for everything you need to know heading into the weekend. Thursdays, we will be bringing you a bilingual double dose of podcasts directamente from Mexico, and en español, it's La Mesa de los Márgaros, the most unique lucha-centric podcast of its kind. It may sound like a joke. A doctor, a photographer, a lucha host, a dancer, and a referee walk into a podcast. But what it really is one heck of a good time when they all get around a virtual table and talk lucha libre and much more. And on Thursdays in English, Northern California lucha star, self-proclaimed King Fat Boy Papa Esco hosts Straight Out of the Bodega, where he and his co-hosts and guests talk about the independent wrestling scene in Northern California and way beyond. The Lucha Central Podcast Network is not only going to be bringing you weekly shows with diverse formats, but we've got an awesome array of monthly series coming your way as well. These shows will launch Mondays and Tuesdays on the network, and you can find the very first one there right now. The Lucha Libre Figures and Facts podcast takes listeners inside the world of pro wrestling action figures like never before, as hosts Scott and Jeff Toon from the Fully Posable Figure podcast are joined by toy designer and executive Eric Araña of Boss Fight Studio and special guests to take a look at the release of classic lucha-associated action figures and talk about the moment in history in the star's career that the toy captures. An inside look into the figure itself and exploration into the collectability and value, along with some really fun stories about the host, personal chases of some of these figures for their own collection. Episode 1 is looking to be available on Tuesday, May 12th. And next Monday, May 18th, look for the debut episode of The Masked Cast with Dos Hermanos Lucha. Whether you have always wanted to get into collecting Lucha Libre masks and never really had an idea how to go about starting your collection, or you're a longtime collector who loves hearing stories of how others have built their impressive collections, the Masked Cast is for you. On the premiere episode, get to know Dos Hermanos Lucha and hear about their start in collecting, the differences in types of lucha masks, and some of their tips for authenticating when someone claims a maskless ring worn. Future episodes will feature conversations with other collectors, mask makers, and lucha stars themselves. And this is just 1 week of the Lucha Central Podcast Network. We've got even more shows, exciting formats, and incredibly fun topics coming your way. So be sure to subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. We've launched on a ton of them this week, and you can count on us being on all the majors very shortly. And be sure to follow at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at luchacentral.com on Twitter to stay up on everything on the daily. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central. But next week, I'll be back to update you not only on the podcast dropping, but to fill you in on the upcoming Lucha Central Gaming Network and Lucha Central Report TV series as well. Have a great week.
All right, that was Denise Salcedo with this week's Lucha Central. This week we had the finals of the AAA Lucha Fighter tournament. And as always, listeners can always watch all of the past episodes of Lucha Fighter on luchacentral.com and on the Lucha Central Facebook page. The first match we had Dinastia defeating Laredo Boy. This was a really well-paced, nice opening match, nothing too fast, too showy. Throughout the duration of the match, I kind of expected to see Laredo Boy get the win, even though I thought Dinastia had the better charisma last time. But he pulled it off at the end, and I think with his charisma that Dinastia is on the way up soon. Psycho Clown defeated Chessman. Chessman looked great in this match. And I'll admit, I wanted Psycho Clown versus Pentagon for the final because that plays into my interest the most. But I found myself rooting for Chessman several times in the match, and at several of the near falls, it looked so good, I thought that he was going to take it. This match had the cookie sheets that all AAA fans know and love. Sometimes two at a time, they doubled them up a few times. Psycho Clown had an amazing flip dive off the top turnbuckle, and this was a really great match that set up the finals. And then the next match was Pentagon Jr. defeating LA Park. This was another match where I had a winner I wanted ahead of time just to see the Psycho Clown versus Pentagon final. But this was still a match I was pretty excited about. And it got weird. It started off with some early Rudo antics from LA Park. I mean, he was really kind of dominating Pentagon. He whipped him with the belt. It got kind of strange. And I know we've touched on the AAA refs before in the MLW series, but this kind of ref interference was pretty new. Piero was, they kind of hugged, and I mean, Piero, the ref, and LA Park were definitely buddies. And we got some brawling in mat-based lucha, but all in all, I felt like it was very lacking compared to some of the earlier matches. Maybe it was because of the lack of the crowd and they didn't react, but I wasn't feeling this match like I expected to. The Rudo work and, of course, the dirty ref, Piero, he gave me the feeling LA Park was going to win, but by the time Pentagon got his mojo going, I didn't care about the confusing ref turn at the end. I was just ready for the next match. And the next match was amazing. Lady Shani defeated La Hydra. I had a feeling that we'd see Lady Shani win as soon as we came out. Her body language was so confident and assured. She came out and dominated early. There was that big kick to the head, and she wrestled smart the whole time. She conserved her energy with rope breaks. Instead of the kick out, she used the rope to break up a knee to the neck. There were several falls where I thought she had won more than once, but after a series of near falls, she won with a submission move, and this was a real highlight of the tournament for me at a whole, and it was great for the next to last match. The main event was one I wanted so badly. I mean, like if I'd done a dream bracket, this would have been my final, but I never really expected it to happen because of some of the names involved. But we got Pentagon Jr. against Psycho Clown. And I know I've mentioned the body language a lot the last couple of weeks, but it really felt like this entire tournament, along with using the Pentagon Jr. name, that Pentagon really returned to the mannerisms and the more self-assured confidence we saw in Lucha Underground, and he was back to that character. And that's kind of what I was excited about for this, because it put the star of Lucha Underground up against the star of AAA with Psycho Clown. And it started out rapidly. Both guys tried to take advantage of the fatigue and pain from the earlier matches in the night and tried to score early pinfalls. And they really matched each other move for move. But everything felt like a big deal in this match. And it was the match of the night for me, easily. There were more cookie sheets, lots of Cero Miedo. it ended perfectly with Pentagon beating Psycho Clown in a surprise for me, getting a picture-perfect armbar finish. And my son Pancho, that was his favorite moment because the arm breaker looked so mean and fluid and perfect. And this was really an amazing match. I can't wait to see these guys on a grand stage like Triple Mania in front of all the fans. They're obviously the stars and like now and the immediate future of Lucha Libre. And I think that getting them in front of a crowd can only heighten and add to the moments of what they're capable of.
Yeah, that was definitely match of the night for me as well. I really enjoyed the dynamic there with Pentagon being the Pentagon of old versus the Psycho Clown that you know and either love or love to hate depending on where you are in the Psycho Clown fandom. But it worked really well for me. The finish was so good, and I was so emotionally invested by the time they got to the finish that I actually was trying to cheer, despite the awkwardness of Psycho Clown constantly trying to start chants during that whole match.
But he's been doing that, I mean, for throughout the week,
all
you know. Psycho. That's just what he does. I think it's just like you just get so used to doing it, whether there's people in the room or not, because that becomes part of the actual wrestling. But I did love how Pentagon just teased him, you know, with that and mocked him, because that played exactly into what Dusty was saying, that rudo, that heel of old, and a lot of the funny things. I mean, that's the thing about Pentagon is that he is pure heel, but he does things that make you laugh. One of my favorite spots was when he was looking at his reflection in the cookie sheet, and it was just this all bent up, sprayed painted, and I was like, oh, well, that kind of looks like him already. So just the nuances. He's incredibly smart when it comes just to the nuances of his character. And Vinny, also, I mean, talked about that earlier, about, you know, you don't have to cut a promo. He didn't have to do a lot of things to get over. There's other aspects beyond his wrestling that he does, in the way that he moves and in the way that he really pushes that brutal side in order to make fans, you know, not like him.
Oh yeah, he's one of the best at it. Speaking of making fans not like him, I'm going to cut back to something you were talking about earlier in the night, the referee situation. For many years, you had Hio de Tarantes being the heel ref, being very over, to the point now where I believe he's still feuding with people in the women's and minis divisions. But he's transitioning more to being a wrestler now because nobody trusts him as a referee. So it was refreshing to see them bring that idea back with a different person.
Yeah, it was really fun. And it was something that we don't see a whole lot of. I haven't seen that level of interference in a match in a long time, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was unpredictable, and it made it a surprise for Pentagon to win for sure. But I think it would wear on me with enough time. You know, I mean, like, if used sparingly, it's awesome. If you used it all the time, it would be awful.
And I felt like that's kind of why it's refreshing again, because they've laid off of it for a while.
Yeah, and you have to look at who the match was. It was LA Park and Pentagon. You know, you kind of went in kind of knowing that it wasn't going to be clean cut.
Yeah.
It was going to be dirty trick after dirty trick, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, but it was entertaining. I totally agree that used sparingly in any situation with, you know, for wrestling, lucha libre, whatever you're doing, you know, the more sparingly that it's used, the more effective it's going to be. This was really the first case that we had seen it within the Lucha Fighter tournament. So, and I'm glad they waited till the end to do it and not early on. And if, you know, they saved it for this match because, you know, again, you knew there was some expectation that something was going to happen, but you didn't know quite what until it was happening. So I do like how they waited till the end of the series to do this, or towards the end, because then that way you were still left wondering what was going to happen.
Absolutely. That's also one of the neat things about this is we've been watching and reviewing each episode, at least in our personal chats, if not on the podcast itself. And each one has successfully built on the last and ramped up the action. So waiting until the last moment really did make that moment more effective. It also made each of these other matches, like, there was more of an atmosphere of, I can't wait to see what the next one's going to do to top the last one, from not just from match to match on this one, but from show to show, from week to week.
Totally agreed. And Dusty made a good point, too, about the women's final with Lady Shani and La Hydra. Absolutely. That was the best match, I think, of the women's division of the entire series. And Lady Shani just looked amazing throughout the entire match. And La Hydra did, too. She came out really aggressive. She came out just, knowing that she was going to have to be aggressive in order to combat Lady Shani, and that submission at the end, too. The way that she folded her arms, kind of just knowing, like, I got this in the bag, that kind of body language, to me, I really liked seeing from Lady Shani, because, both are really talented, great luchadores, but at the same time, again, to me, the little nuances with body language always help sell what's happening in the ring.
This is another one where they did some fun things with that. If the first week of the series, all the ladies came out, and the story was interference in the ladies' matches, and this one was all physical. Like they were from the moment it started all the way through, and like you said, the body language and confidence really sold the finish on it. If this was not on the same card as a basic dream match with Pentagon and Psycho Clown, this would have been the match of the night for me. It was good, and they are both top-notch wrestlers that deserve to have that spotlight on them.
Yeah, that match was a real highlight to me, and I wondered if they had gone into it looking to try to show everybody up and show everybody what they could do, because I think a women's title match will be in the future. And there's kind of a rumored or delayed match between Lady Shani and Taya, and I would love to see that now because of Lady Shani's physicality and her intensity. I think it would be incredible up against Taya's, muscular style and her ability. I think that's going to be a heck of a matchup.
Yeah, I believe commentary talked about that at the end of the match, alluded to that she could be a contender for Taya. So I don't think they would have mentioned it if there wasn't some kind of planting some seeds. Who knows how far in the future because of COVID currently, but
right.
Well, yeah, so we don't know what the timeline on that will look like, but clearly, like you said, they're going to be moving towards that. They're also going to do what they need to do to make it happen. The good news is it looks like matches will be able to be held somewhere. This format definitely did work well, and they were able to find a way to make it work in the current crisis, so I have confidence they will find some way of continuing to make the product work as we move forward.
Yeah, they made some really smart decisions through this whole tournament.
AAA actually had some of the best decisions throughout. The way they showed the cleaning of the ropes, the amount of crowd noise that they used. I thought AEW was brilliant putting the other wrestlers in the crowd, but that was the only thing AAA didn't do that I thought was great. But otherwise, I thought they had the smartest production of any of the empty arena matches. And
they kept the matches fairly short, and I know that's something that they mentioned in the booking process was intentional because they didn't want matches to drag on that long. But they also had, to my understanding, they had to they only were able to have a certain amount of people in the building at a time. So in order to keep the flow going, you couldn't have these long matches. You kind of had to keep a flow of people in and out in order to maintain the proper capacity. But even then, nothing felt like it dragged on too long. It was just the right amount of time to keep your attention.
I thought so too. I thought they were perfectly timed. Each match was easily digestible. Even if you couldn't catch the whole show, you could sit down and watch a match in 10 minutes while you ate your cereal in the morning, and that made it awesome to kind of build up until you could catch the whole show. I really enjoyed it.
It was a very good series, and like I said before, I'm looking forward to seeing what they will do. Let's shift gears now, though, and look at the last week of what MLW was doing. Now, they are still, pardon me, they are still working with pre-taped matches that happened before everything was shut down. This was the last week of the Super Series where they were going head-to-head with AAA, although they have dropped several hints that they would like to do more of this series and that maybe other federations could be involved in future series as well, so keep an ear open for that. But this one was one match, and it was a long, great match. It was LA Park's La Family Real versus the team of Psycho Clown, Psicosis, and Nino Hamburguesa. This is, for those that aren't familiar, this is the original WCW Psicosis, not any of the other people there. He is also known by Nicho El Millonero, and so it added a nice level of legend versus legend, where you had LA Park and Psicosis in the ring at the same time. I suppose I should mention who actually won. The Park family did win.
Yes.
I don't even remember what the finish was anymore because it was such an insane match.
That match, yeah. I think that was just the one thing as we were talking offline about it. It was just that match was insane.
Yeah, I think that the ending was like after Pagano ran in and distracted everybody.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I think it was right after Pagano's distraction. I actually couldn't remember. Like, I don't remember the finishing move or anything. There was just so much going on.
Exactly. Like, there was so much, and I didn't even, when I watch a match and I will take notes, and I was just so shocked by the ending after all of the madness that had happened partway through, that I didn't even write down what the actual finish was. I just kind of sat there and watched events unfold instead.
I don't think anyone wants to see my notes because it's random words jotted down regarding using two parts of a table, a tiny table, going into the crowd, Nino Hamburguesa getting it, a quote directly from the commentators of a move. I guess it was, I don't know if it was LA Park Jr. or Hijo, who was down in one of the turnbuckles and had a chair right between his legs.
Yeah, it was Hijo del LA Park. Yeah.
and as far as the move that the commentary used to describe that chair going in between his legs, I'm only repeating what commentary said. Again, we're still trying to figure out what kind of language we can use on this podcast. But the word paint thinner became a thing. That's my note.
Yeah, that was well, yeah, you covered the banquet round table that they got in there. First off, if you ever want to ever have any doubt that LA Park is a giant human being, the fact that he could carry that table around so easily and use it with such ease. I mean, I used to do that for a living, and I could not one hand carry that around and use it as a weapon the way that he did.
Oh, he just looks humongous, too, when he does it.
Oh, and that table gave no way. I mean, that you...
Yeah, Nino bounced off
he bounced.
The table.
That was not that was a work table. That's literally a work. There's nothing to shoot about that.
he probably, as the commentator said, he probably just grabbed it from a VIP section, and they had like 5 seconds to grab their drinks, or they were going with.
It was insane, but the crowd seemed to love it. I mean, this was something that he to really be anticipating.
They were absolutely all over it, and they were cheering for both sides at most points, but they definitely were much more on the side of Psycho Clown and Psychosis.
I mean, I mentioned last week about Hijo del Vikingo being a MVP because he was featured on both shows. I mean, I think this was a great week for exposure, at least for Psycho Clown, being in the finals of the Lucha Fighter tournament and in this kind of main final show for the Super Series. It's very obvious that he is really being looked at as the next big top face in Mexico. So I think this was a great week of exposure for him.
Yeah. He is still got his series that he's doing on MLW as well.
This was overall really entertaining week. We did mention Pagano. He had a segment, really just doing a promo in there. So there was, you could have guessed that he was going to get involved in the main event as well, and maybe some more long-term plans for him. I'm not sure. I thought that was interesting as far as the way they set up the promo and to also. Him getting involved in the last few minutes of the match.
So MLW has been promoting him as having regular upcoming appearances on their programming. So that is probably very much what the plan is. That is to have him feuding with the LA Park family for a while, and maybe work from there.
Would be interesting. I was really impressed with Hijo del LA Park with this match. I thought he really had a lot of charisma and like his command to the ring, and I think he's going to be a pretty good star. I mean, I think he's going to be the next Park family star. Did you guys notice that? He just had something about him in the ring that a lot of people don't have. And even when he took that chair spot, I thought that he really, like the way he sold it and the way he reacted, I just thought everything he did looked big time and really effortless.
Yeah, he's definitely got that same thing we were talking about with Pentagon, and the same thing that LA Park has. He's got a presence about him that is it's probably bigger than his actual ability at the moment.
Very good point. Very good point. Well, with the end of the Super Series with AAA and MLW, we also had a big WWE event that occurred this past Sunday, Money in the Bank, which was held kind of a mix of locations. You had it at the Performance Center aspects of it, but then you had the actual Money in the Bank ladder match happening at Titan Towers, WWE headquarters. Going over this briefly, because also a surprise, this pay-per-view was only 2.5 hours. I was shocked at how short this event was compared to everything else that they produced. This was shorter than an episode of Raw.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And it felt good as a result. I still feel like 3 hours is too long for a regular weekly show, and having a nice, quick event where you still want more, but you feel satisfied at the end is really the best way to do a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it takes out a lot of filler and a lot of the stuff that you don't enjoy, and it sure made it, I don't know, it made it a little tighter, and the whole thing felt like it was more flow. Like the flow was more dynamic, and it just felt like a better pay-per-view than we're used to lately.
Yeah, I totally was very happy with it, even though I missed parts of it because I didn't realize it was going to be so short. But that's what the network is for. Two main aspects regarding Lucha Libre and Money in the Bank. We had a fatal 4-way match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. You had New Day versus Miz and Morrison versus the Forgotten Sons versus Lucha House Party, represented by Lince Dorado and Gran Metalik. Yeah, I mean, like, this was a fun match, and I do think because, I mean, we've already seen ladder matches without an audience, and that's one aspect that you know, kind of loses its aura in a ladder match when you don't have an audience to have the oohs and ahs. I'm not sorry, not a ladder match, but I was just thinking about the Money in the Bank portion, but this was just a 4-way, just really entertaining, really fast-paced, and it and I really like some of the spots, especially Gran Metalik. I thought he actually was fantastic in this match.
Oh, absolutely. He came out looking like a star in this. That is one of the first notes I've got is he's looking great this whole time. I mentioned previously that I'm a big fan of his, so there's probably some people that aren't surprised that I felt that way. But also we talked about how little presence they had previously, and they got to be in this match, and not just in this match, but they were the heart of the match. They didn't come out winners, but they were doing the majority of the work when there was a big spot to be had or some transition was going on. They were involved in all the aspects of it.
They were. They got cheated a little on their entrance. They cut away during the entrance for Lucha House Party and not for anybody else. Lince Dorado had that Twitch stream where he had made his gear. The mask was made by Sancho Jr., but he made the gear, the Tommy Oliver White Ranger gear, and I thought he looked incredible. Gran Metalik had the food-inspired cut to his mask. Looked incredible. I thought that it said a lot that they got to start out the match, he and Kofi. They got so many, like big spots. They work. Lucha House Party works incredibly well with Miz and Morrison.
Yes.
Like, they just look so good. And that flip that Metalik and Morrison had together off the top rope onto the teams down below, that was incredible. Yeah. And I thought it was the best that Lucha House Party's looked in a long time.
Absolutely agreed. And of course, I mean, it's John Morrison, I mean, he could do it all. I think that chemistry is very obvious. He's very familiar with lucha style and high flying, and he can do it with ease. And so I'm also glad that he had that opportunity to really showcase his talent. I know commentary had mentioned, I mean, he's looking the best he had now than in his original run. And I absolutely agree with that. But a lot of it is because he's diversified himself as a wrestler. And the time with, not only popular, Lucha Libre promotions like a Lucha Underground, but also time in Mexico, time all over the world, you can see he picked up pieces of Lucha Libre and just other forms of wrestling now that he's incorporated into his wrestling now in WWE, and it absolutely shows. But I also agree this was the best that Lucha Underground has looked in a long time. I'm sorry, Lucha House Party.
Yes.
Yeah. I did have a thought on that, too, that what we were watching, even though he was billed as John Morrison, that's not the John Morrison we saw before. That was very much Johnny Mundo.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not just because he was closer to the personality that we saw there, but because he has, to your point, he's been all around the world, and that is what he's trying to say with that name.
Absolutely. And then we had the actual Money in the Bank ladder match. I keep confusing words. Now we're back on the straight path of the actual match that featured Rey Mysterio. I mean, the two big things that came out of it from here is that he was put in a sleeper hold by Shayna Baszler, and he didn't fall off the entirety of the building, but he got thrown off a level of the building.
It was awesome when it happened, but he was back the next night on Raw to congratulate Becky Lynch on her pregnancy, so there was no long-term story there, unfortunately.
Well, they still did an injury thing after that. There was a great little graphic that somebody did, and I just retweeted it with it's been a bad week for Ray, because they showed the first clip of of him getting not just put in the sleeper hold, but then he got sandwiched by two of the biggest guys in that match while he was being released from the sleeper hold. Then you have the scene where he quite possibly would have been murdered if he hadn't come back on Monday. And then you have him getting absolutely wrecked on Monday after the match was over from a very upset Seth Rollins.
Yeah, and I mean, we were talking about, his potential of if he was going to renew his contract or not, and one of the things that we talked about was this match being an opportunity to showcase him and even possibly winning, but instead he just got beat up for almost a full day straight.
Yeah.
That doesn't
sport about the whole thing.
Yeah.
I do feel like that it showcased Ray's ability to make other people look really good. Like there was no point in any of those spots where you felt like this was fake, or that I mean, it was a ridiculous thing to watch. I mean, sure, him being sandwiched between two massive human beings seems awkward, but he still made it look good. And he went off that building like a champ. So good on him on all of that, and maybe that's where he's thinking his role is going to be. He's going to be the star maker now. He's going to have the big name and help the next generation of people go.
And that's honestly a great spot for him right now.
Yeah, I think you brought that up, I believe last week, about the possibility if he's just a trainer. I mean, anyone who decides to utilize his skill as a trainer, especially with the Performance Center, he would be a fantastic trainer and teacher. But just what he did both on Sunday and Monday, utilizing his skill to put people over is so undervalued. And I think fans get so hyped up in, he's a living legend. He's been wrestling for years, and when you hear rumors about a contract expiring, thinking, what are they going to do to keep him and elevate him? But it's also, something to note about him and his career, that it isn't just about, wins and high spots and championships. It's, what you give in your performance and how you can help other performers be stronger and get over.
Yeah, I think that's a great look on him, and it's absolutely. We were also talking about him being a next level trainer if he decides to do that, and that's a thing that he could still do at the same time. So I hope that is what we're going to see from him if they continue to work with him in the WWE. As much as I want to see him in the main event and win more titles, I really appreciate that he is unique in that he can help somebody else look phenomenal, and we can actually maybe see an Andrade or someone else really elevated by his skill to do that.
Totally agreed.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think that as far as training goes, the top is the limit for Rey Mysterio, because he changed the game in Lucha Libre, and I think he could change the game in training.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to slow us down for just a second here. We are going to cover a little more sensitive of a news story. Alberto Del Rio was arrested. I'm just going to read the statement, and we will go from there. Former Lucha star and WWE performer Alberto Del Rio, also known as Dos Caras Jr., was arrested last Saturday in San Antonio on sexual assault charges. The victim's claims are very graphic and troubling, and as such, I don't feel comfortable commenting on those details. Del Rio was released on a $50,000 bond on Sunday. He will, of course, return to court. This story is a difficult one and not something that I really think we need to be discussing or disseminating. The facts speak for themselves on this. The information is available if people really want those more details. At this point, I would like to just do a quick read of a commercial, and then we can get back to having fun and doing good lucha stories for you. If you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's time to do it. luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voice heard, from weekly polls to annual awards. Seen and read by top executives in all the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of all of this, it's free. luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. And we can throw it over to, I believe Dusty was going to talk about something next.
Okay. We have This Week in Lucha Libre. Every day, I believe, at luchacentral.com, we have a topic, This Day in Lucha Libre. And each week we kind of pick a story that interests us the most in the history of Lucha Libre. And I actually went ahead and checked a few weeks ago, thanks to my Legends of Lucha Libre calendar by Masked Republic. And last week we kind of had a story about the anniversary of the formation of AAA. And I ended up watching a lot of the first year of shows as part of my research on AAA. And so the 17th, which is tomorrow as we record this, is the anniversary of AAA's first show. So I went back and watched that. And AAA's formation was unique because they were formed in conjunction with a television station in Mexico. So they had immediate television presence, huge television presence. And the main event was a big match, a Perro Aguayo, Mascara Sagrada, and El Fantasma in a 3 falls match against Los Hermanos Dinamitas. But I really recommend this match for historical context as the first AAA main event. As an actual Lucha Libre match, it's a little bit lacking. The Technicos got the first pin, and the Rudos, there was an interference and a foul, and they gave the second fall to the Technicos, and then the Rudos decided they just wanted to do the grab chairs and hit the Technicos thing, which is very AAA, so they were disqualified at the end. The Technicos won. It's excellent to check out as part of the AAA history. I found it on YouTube by checking out AAA May 92. That helped me find it. And I highly recommend checking out that first year of AAA. It was really exciting, and you can still see its influence in wrestling and Lucha Libre today.
Yeah, early AAA is very exciting stuff to watch. I am currently on a more of a role of trying to catch older CMLL matches because not a lot of that was broadcast in the United States. It was a lot harder to get, so...
Exactly.
I found the match. They had a 2006 match, which is not super early, but it's got a nice historical feel to it, with Black Warrior winning the NWA World Middleweight Championship from Mystico, and it has all of the classic CMLL feel. There's big pageantry when it happens. It's a 2 out of 3 falls match that, of course, goes to the third fall. You have the ring filled with people and belts at the beginning. You have cornermen for both, and even Caminito at ringside. And if you haven't seen a match with a furry monkey man at ringside, then you just haven't lived yet.
Lucha Libre, what a sport.
Right? I love this match. The only thing wrong with it for me was the wrong person won. In my personal view, I'm a big Mystico fan, but that is what we're here for. I was there for us to see Black Warrior, who also has a very good career and worth watching a lot of his matches. had a great match and wound up coming out with a third fall on that, which I believe was a submission win even.
Interesting.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
It's links are all up on the website, so please do go check it out. It's a good one.
For my day in Lucha Libre history, I went in a slightly different direction. I did not watch this match because I wasn't able to find it. Maybe once I talk about it, you gentlemen can help guide me in the right direction. I actually was influenced by this based off of this week's episode of Dark Side of the Ring that covered the story of the Road Warriors. And on May 11th, Animal Warrior and Power Warrior won the UWA, the Universal Wrestling Association Tag Team Championships after beating Los Perros del Mar, Damian 666 and El Terrible at Dragon Mania 3 in Arena Mexico in Mexico City. I was interested in this after learning more about the Hellraisers period with Road Warrior Animal going in a different direction in both times. So right after he left the WWF, going to Japan and starting the Hellraisers there with Sasaki. And then in 2008, when this happened, as far as winning the titles, this was kind of another iteration of the Hell Warriors. So it just kind of caught my attention based off of what I learned in the Dark Side of the Ring episode, but also just, taking one half of the most well-known tag teams in history and what it meant to have the Hell Warriors or Hellraisers win the Universal Wrestling Association Tag Team Championships. So I still need to find the footage to actually watch that match.
One of the reasons that was not my big story was I had trouble finding that match too. I am also a big tag team fan, and I saw that on there, and I tried to run that down. I have not found that yet, so maybe Dusty has some ideas.
I don't. I'll have to look around and see if I can find it.
If somebody's listening out there, they can send us in the right direction
please.
too.
Yeah, send us a message.
Send us a message. We want to watch the match. It's a pretty big match to have. And again, this was the second iteration of the Hellraisers too. So I'm really interested in seeing what that looked like. This was 2008, so it wasn't long ago, and it was kind of towards the end of Animal's career as well. So I'd love to see it, but it's also kind of an interesting way of blending, not only American and Japanese and lucha all in not only tag teams, but I'm sure in one match. So I'm fascinated to see what that match looked like.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Somebody find it for us.
Yeah, somebody find it for us. You can. We'll give you our socials later, or send it on to the Lucha Central socials, all of that. But we really want to watch this. And you can see this day in Lucha Libre history every day on luchacentral.com. It has its own category under history, but again, you'll be able to see it on the front page every day. You can go and review what happened this day in Lucha Libre, and let us know what are some of your favorite days, historical moments in Lucha Libre history. All right. Now, going into the later half of our episode, we do have a commercial from one of our partners, thechairshot.com.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Okay, we're back. AEW had a couple of big lucha spots, lucha adjacent spots the last couple of weeks. Ray Phoenix, the most recent, this just happened last night as we record this, been all over social media today. Ray Phoenix and his amazing Liu Kang kick. In the middle of nowhere, we got there's a pretty good match between Jungle Express and Best Friends with Orange Cassidy. And in the middle of nowhere, Phoenix shows up and does the most perfect Liu Kang kick you've ever seen. Right upside Orange Cassidy's head, and then just walks away like Clint Eastwood. It was amazing. It was the most memorable moment of the match for me, and it was really cool to see so much going on all at once. And he was also on AEW Dark this week, had a great match against Alan Angels. He had an amazing Kinnikuman Buster finisher at the end. The whole thing with the Liu Kang kick and running out in the tag team match, it reminded me a little bit of WCW in the best way, and a little bit of AAA where there's random run-ins and attacks happen and it sets up a feud. And I think Phoenix versus Orange Cassidy could be really interesting. I think the Death Triangle against Best Friends could be really, really interesting. As soon as, Pentagon can get back to America and Pac can get back to America. I think that, that there's a lot of people that see Orange Cassidy as kind of like a one-trick pony or kind of a gimmicky thing. But I think that having a match with Phoenix, could kind of open people's eyes to what he can do. And Phoenix has a way of making everything and everybody look amazing. And I think that, teasing a match between them is going to be really exciting in the future. And I think that, like I say, with their tag teams, we'll get individual matchups throughout. And so I think we'll see a lot of action between them going forward. And then we had Sammy Guevara, and he's had an amazing couple of weeks. Last week he got to tag with Chris Jericho against Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy, and that made him if I'm not mistaken, the only non-world champion of a major promotion in the ring. Like everybody else had previously been a world champion for a major promotion. That's a really high-profile spot for somebody like Sammy, and he got in a lot of offense. He had a beautiful shooting star press, but then he took a V-trigger from Omega, and then there was a kind of a very scary, not just kind of, but a very scary looking table spot that he did. And then we had the golf cart. And everybody's probably seen this on social media, either the clip or the photo. Britt Baker streamed it live, like the whole thing on her phone on Instagram. It was amazing. But the golf cart, I've even seen non-wrestling memes about it. But Matt Hardy flying down the walkway at Daly Field, and he's got the most psycho face you've ever seen. And he's driving, and this red streak through his hair, and Kenny Omega is leaning out the side, and I mean, like, it was threatening, and then they just run him down. Like, it was an amazing spot, and it was rightfully all over social media. It was one of the most amazing and enjoyable matches I've seen on TV in a while. I've seen some pretty good stuff on YouTube lately, but on TV, this was really good. And I don't know if I've ever seen somebody go from young guy to top guy as fast as Sammy Guevara. He stood out with the panda head when he came out at the beginning, when the AEW started, but he was seemingly handpicked by Jericho for the Inner Circle. And he's really become a genuine superstar. I mean, I think he's got a little ways to go before he can compete solo in the title scene, but I think he's going to be seen as a legitimate competitor in the very near future. He's only 26. He's of a similar size to AJ Styles at that age, and I don't necessarily think there's ever going to be a ceiling for Sammy Guevara's talent and position. I mean, I think he could end up being the ace of his generation. He's just so good and better every week.
And he's so very charismatic. I don't know if either of you follow his vlogs, but he's a very funny guy, and the rest of his life too. Yeah,
he has such a great combination of talent and charisma. that you really need in order to stand out. And I agree with what you're saying with seemingly just Chris Jericho picking him out, because then they have their own little sub-tag team within the inner circle of the Sex Gods.
They've got a T-shirt now.
Hilarious. Yeah, it's hilarious, you know? And even that, I mean, his charisma, I think, has made him really stand out in the inner circle, because whatever he doesn't have in size, like Pride and Powerful, like Santana and Ortiz, like a Jake Hager, he has in charisma. And that helps him stand out in a group like that. And also when you have someone who's very charismatic, like a Chris Jericho, you can see them kind of just gravitate towards each other. So I think he's done some really great work over the past few weeks. But also just during his time in the inner circle, he's been able to really leverage that as a way to stand out. And he could have such a lengthy career at AEW where this sets him up for long-term success.
And we haven't even touched on what happened to him this week. So he came out with a neck brace on.
Yes.
And then during the scrum around a match, he wound up taking a really devastating looking move.
Yeah, it was
where
gnarly, like a crazy DDT with the neck brace on, even if he wasn't hurt, imagine trying to take a drop DDT like that with a rigid neck brace on. There's no way it wouldn't be painful.
Yeah.
He was spiked for sure, but he was very clearly proud of that, because on social media after that happened, he put the GIF up of it and then said, I don't back down from anybody, or I'm fearless, something to that effect.
Yeah, I totally believe. I believe that, man. He's. I'm going to be very interested to see what kind of spots happen during the Stadium Stampede match happening at Double or Nothing. I mean, if we thought that what we saw already was pretty entertaining, I can only imagine what they're setting up for Double or Nothing with the Sex Gods, or not. The Sex Gods and the Inner Circle, the whole Inner Circle versus the Elite.
Yeah, that's going to be a barn burner for sure. Mm-hmm. I do want to swing back for just a second here. You kind of glazed over this because we were so excited to talk about the amazing kick, but Jurassic Express does feature Luchasaurus, so that is, if you are looking for a lucha match on this week's AEW product, that is the match to watch right there. That tag team affair where later Ray comes out, or Phoenix comes out, and drops Orange Cassidy with a phenomenal-looking kick.
And they did set that up for next week, so we will have Orange Cassidy versus Ray Phoenix for next week's AEW Dynamite. Also, both men are going to be in the casino ladder match at Double or Nothing. Also included in that match as of right now is Darby Allin and Colt Cabana. So that match has, Ray written.
Sky was announced today.
Ooh. So I think there's going to be 9 competitors in total for that match, and to have Ray Phoenix a part of that, I mean, it's going to be fantastic for him to showcase. But also having all these different wrestlers in that match with different styles. I mean, already a Darby Allin, I know so much. He's just going to just jump off so many things and just jump onto so many people. I'm very excited to see what he would do against a Ray Phoenix, and the setup that they have now with Orange Cassidy. It does seem like that's a really solid build up into the ladder match for Double or Nothing, and even Scorpio Sky. I mean, that could have the ability to steal the show at 100%. I know there's a whole stadium stampede that's going to happen, but with the physicality, the performers that are going to be in that ladder match, I mean, it's going to be some of the best in the entire world in an insane ladder match. So I'm really, really looking forward to that match in particular.
Yeah, that's going to be a great one. I always look forward to AEW pay-per-views, but this one is really getting me excited.
Yeah, I think this is easily going to be their best one yet. We've had enough time to kind of get into a rhythm with AEW and get into a feel, and they're giving us some of their best stuff right now. And I mean, it's really been great TV lately. And if the ladder match isn't the best match on the show, I can't wait to see what the rest of the show looks like, because you know, the whole thing has the propensity to be, you know, an A+ breathtaking show.
Yeah, I very much agree. And we talked about some of the creative differences between AEW and WWE and even AAA in working through an empty arena. And I think they've been finding a good balance between competitive matches but also entertaining. Some things have come across a little hokey in my personal taste, like Nyla Rose's kendo stick spot. To me, why do you only hit someone with a kendo stick once? It's like a bag of chips. You got to do it multiple times. There's no way you just hit someone once with the kendo stick. But that's, you know, I'm sure a debate that we can have another time. But overall, I can appreciate the creativity. Also, just the creativity of all the promotions during this time with empty arena shows and doing things that are unique to them that make them stand out, but also continuing to put on just quality matches and quality products. But there's also still the case so that if you know, as a fan, if you're unsure what to watch or don't like one thing, there is truly something else out there for you. And I think this is a wonderful time that if you are just getting into Lucha Libre, this is still something kind of new to you, there's a lot of amazing content that's available, and you can find a lot of that on luchacentral.com.
Yes, and we haven't even begun to scratch the surface on a lot of the content that's out there. We will be in future weeks, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, talking about the factions in ROH, and even the NWA has Thunder Rosa as champion, and she's teasing a big announcement for Friday, which will be when the show is on the air. So I'm hoping that it's something exciting that we can talk about on next week's show, as well as whatever AAA is going to be doing next. And MLW is releasing the Anthology series, so there will be Lucha Libre matches to talk about on that as well.
Yes, really good point about all of that. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be something out for everyone. So we don't want to hear it that there's nothing on TV or there's nothing, you know, in wrestling to watch and see, because there's plenty out there. Yeah,
definitely. Something for everybody. YouTube, there's lots of stuff there.
And lots of lucha everywhere, too, so which is great. This is the right time to be a Lucha Libre fan. You have lots of access to it.
Yeah. And speaking of being a good Lucha Libre fan, if you've listened to the entirety of the show, congratulations. You are a good Lucha Libre fan because you made the right decision this week to listen to the English edition of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Thank you so much. Before we get off the air, I want to give us, hosts, a chance to share with you our social media accounts, so that way if you'd like to connect with us, ask us any questions, feel free to do so. So, Dusty, where can fans find you?
They can find me on Instagram. I'm at Dusty Murphy, and I'm on Facebook, too. There's a few other Dusty Murphys out there, but as long as you see the one wearing a Caristico mask, you found the right guy.
And it took me a second, but I figured it out.
Good. I'm glad.
And Brendan, where can fans find you at?
Oh, my favorite place to hang out is on wrestling Twitter. I am 321 T-shirt. That's TEESHIRT. 321 T-shirt guy on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, but much like Vinny, I'm not really big about posting a lot of pictures, so I have a lot more fun on the Twitter.
Awesome. Cool. So you can do Twitter for both of us because I don't have Twitter. So if you all have any questions, just hashtag Miranda on any of Brendan's social Twitter posts, just so that he can relay the message. I also did not get this approved by Brendan, so surprise.
I'll do it. I'll totally take your messages for you. That's fine.
Yes. Brendan will take my messages for me. Just please use hashtag Miranda, so that way he just knows to relay it to me. I myself am on Instagram and Facebook at the hashtag Miranda. Feel free to drop a line. Let us know what you think about the show. We definitely want this to be a show of the fans, by the fans. So let us know any future topics you think we should cover. We still got a long ways to go. This is only week 2 in forever. So our hope is that we can continue to provide you with some great content and information, breaking news, everything in the world of Lucha Libre. And speaking of, you can follow luchacentral.com for all your latest Lucha Libre news and analysis. You can follow Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram at Lucha Central. You can follow them on Twitter at luchacentral.com. And you can also visit their YouTube page where there's lots of great videos up there. They've been streaming the AAA Lucha Libre Fighter series. There's going to be interviews, past and present, that are going to be available. And I believe some little cliff notes of the podcast from the podcast network will be on YouTube. Also, this podcast and the other podcasts on the network are going to be available on all your major forms of podcasting. So Spotify, of course, the other ones. I don't remember all of them because there's so many right now. But, until next time, we will be back next week. And just don't hang out here. I mean, you can do other things while you are waiting, but we hope to have you listen and be with us next week.
See you soon.
See you soon, everyone. Bye.
Bye.